In 2020, Romania launched a procurement project worth up to $300 million for electric trains. According to the plan, they intended to purchase 20 intercity electric train sets, along with follow-up maintenance services. A year later, a consortium formed by a Chinese train manufacturer and a local Romanian company submitted a bid and successfully won the contract. However, things took an unexpected turn. The Romanian government later excluded the Chinese company from the bidding process, citing that it was a third-country economic operator. The contract was instead awarded to the French company Alstom. On the surface, it looked like things went smoothly with Alstom. Electric trains were delivered, and the project moved forward. But in reality, the outcome was far from ideal. Romania ended up suffering more than 6 million euros in financial losses. Now, the Romanian government is suing Alstom in an effort to recover those damages. So the big questions are, why did Romania abruptly cancel its partnership with the Chinese company? And now, why are they turning around and suing Alstom? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. Located in southeastern Europe, Romania's advantageous geographic position makes it a key transportation hub connecting various regions across the continent. With continued economic development, the capital city of Bucharest has now become a center for numerous government institutions and multinational corporations. Among Romania's major industries, the textile and garment sector stands out as one of its economic pillars. Thanks to relatively low labor costs and a skilled workforce, Romania has earned the nickname, the sewing workshop of Europe. Currently, about 91% of the country's clothing products are exported to EU member states. In addition to its industrial foundation, Bucharest itself is rich in history and showcases a unique charm from the industrial era. In 2024, the city welcomed over 2 million tourists, with about 30% coming from abroad, including a significant number of visitors from neighboring Hungary. In recent years, relations between Romania and Hungary have gradually improved, and the two sides have proposed a cross-border transportation plan, the construction of an electric train line connecting Bucharest and Budapest. As early as November 2019, Romania launched a procurement tender for electric trains, aiming to purchase 20 brand-new regional electric multiple units, along with 15 years of maintenance services. At the time, China was one of Romania's key potential partners. The electric trains developed by China at that time could reach a maximum speed of 600 kilometers per hour and were fully autonomous. The driverless system had reached GOA 4, the highest level of full automation, and relied on a dual positioning system of 5G plus Beidou to achieve centimeter-level precision control. All operations and dispatch commands were managed by a centralized ground control center. At the time, Chinese electric trains were gaining significant attention in the international market, with exports to more than 20 countries and regions, including the Philippines and Germany. At the same time, China had been actively seeking to expand into the European market. Upon learning that Romania had launched an electric train procurement project, the Chinese team began preparing all necessary technical and commercial documentation for the bidding process. Among bidders from over 100 countries, China won the contract thanks to its advanced technological capabilities and highly competitive pricing. The total value of the contract reached $300 million, covering the supply of 20 tram units and related services, making it one of the largest transportation equipment procurement projects Romania had ever signed. To ensure compatibility with Romania's railway standards, China even developed a custom model specifically for this project. Throughout the implementation process, the Chinese side proceeded with production according to schedule. However, just as the first electric train was about to be delivered, Romania suddenly and unilaterally terminated the contract What exactly happened during this period? As far as I know, ever since China won the bid for Romania's electric train project, other competitors began raising constant objections. They accused the Chinese company of not being an EU member and demanded that the winning result be revoked. Some even claimed that awarding the project to China was one of the stupidest decisions the Romanian government had ever made. In fact, the core reason behind the opposition is not hard to understand. They feared that China would gradually enter the European market and, with its strong technological capabilities and pricing advantages, squeeze out the space for local train manufacturers to survive. Eventually, under growing public pressure, the Romanian government issued an emergency government ordinance to cancel the contract awarded to China and instead handed it over to the French company Alstom. However, Romania never gave any explanation for its decision to revoke the award to China. Beyond a steadily intensifying media pressure in the early stages, it is widely believed that there were also political factors at play. It's well known that the European Union and the United States have always maintained a close relationship, and on many China-related issues, the two often act in coordination. In recent years, many restrictive policies targeting Chinese companies have been the result of joint efforts between the EU and the US. So this sudden cancellation of China's winning bid by Romania may also have something to do with the EU's broader position. After all, the EU has long been wary of China's growing influence in European infrastructure sectors. But the problem is, the Chinese company had already customized the design and technical plans for these electric trains based on Romania's requirements, and had invested significant costs into the project. It is estimated that this breach of contract may have caused the Chinese side to lose more than $1 million. In response, China formally filed a complaint with the EU court, demanding that Romania compensate for all losses incurred during the construction of the trains and pay the penalties stipulated in the contract. However, the complaint did not proceed smoothly. Throughout the process, the EU court moved at a very slow pace. Although the Chinese side repeatedly requested expedited handling, there was never a clear response. It wasn't until more than a year later, in March 2024, that the court finally issued its ruling. The core of the decision was this. The court confirmed that in the field of common commercial policy, Romania holds exclusive authority. However, if the EU itself has not enacted relevant legislation, member states cannot unilaterally establish rules to exclude third-country enterprises from participating in their domestic public procurement. In other words, the emergency government ordinance issued by Romania was ruled invalid. However, the court also pointed out that since China has not signed a reciprocity agreement with the EU as a third-country enterprise, China does not have the right to claim equal treatment within the EU's public procurement system. In other words, while Romania's policy at the time was deemed invalid, this does not mean China was automatically entitled to participate in the tender process. Whether or not it qualifies still depends on the judgment of the local procurement authority. What's even more unexpected is that, in response to the EU court's ruling on China, Poland began considering amending its own public procurement law. According to currently available information, the proposed amendment may restrict the rights of non-EU companies to file complaints after losing a bid and could take effect as early as 2025. If this new regulation is ultimately passed, then Romania's breach of contract with China would no longer be subject to legal accountability, and the Chinese side would have no legal path to seek compensation. By then, no matter how much Chinese companies object, they would have no choice but to accept the outcome. Interestingly, although Romania canceled its contract with China for the electric trains and handed the project over to Alstom, who did manage to complete part of the delivery, the entire project is now facing serious trouble. Back in November of last year, the first Cordia Stream electric multiple unit produced by Alstom was officially put into operation on the Bucharest to Brașov line. However, embarrassingly, just one day after its debut, the train was forced to stop service due to a malfunction in the onboard system. To this day, the system issue still hasn't been fully resolved. The train can barely operate a single trip per day, after which it must immediately return to the station for troubleshooting, making it nearly impossible to meet normal operational demands. What's worse, Alstom failed to deliver the trains on schedule, as outlined in the contract, further delaying the entire project. According to the original plan, Romania was supposed to receive 12 train sets by February 2024, but has so far received only 3, with the rest all delayed. After multiple rounds of negotiations, Romania was eventually forced to agree to extend the final delivery deadline to the end of 2025. Based on my estimates, just the delays in delivery and the technical malfunctions have already cost Romania around 6 million euros. Alstom's breach of contract has created a significant financial burden for local rail operations. Currently, the Romanian railway company is planning to take legal action against Alstom, demanding compensation for the economic losses incurred. In fact, this wasn't the first time Romania had canceled a project in cooperation with China. Back in the 1980s, Romania launched the construction of the Cernavodă nuclear power plant. By 2003, Units 1 and 2 had been completed and put into operation. Together, these 2 units generate enough electricity annually to meet nearly 1/5 of the country's total energy demand. Originally, the plan was to build 5 units of the plant, not only for electricity generation, but also to provide heating for local residents. However, due to funding shortages and other issues, the remaining 3 units were put on hold after 2003 and never broke ground. That period coincided with China's rise to prominence in global nuclear power development. At the time, China accounted for 1/4 of all nuclear units under construction worldwide, with total assets exceeding $30 billion, making it the undisputed leader in the industry. In 2011, Romania proactively approached China, hoping to build a new type of advanced nuclear reactor at Cernavodă. China expressed its willingness to cooperate, not only offering technical support, but also being ready to provide funding. It was a win-win deal for both sides. Romania would gain sufficient financial resources to move forward with construction, and China would gain an opportunity to introduce its equipment into the European energy market. According to the agreement, China would supply key components such as generators, turbines, and electrical systems. The total investment for the entire project was about $5.1 billion. China also followed the contract and steadily advanced the manufacturing process, with all tasks progressing in an orderly manner. However, in 2020, the Romanian government suddenly announced the cancellation of its cooperation agreement with China on Units 3 and 4 of the Cernavodă nuclear power plant. Soon after, the United States stepped in to take China's place and reached a new agreement with Romania to continue the expansion and upgrade of the project. This unexpected shift rendered nearly all of China's years-long investment futile, with estimated losses exceeding $3 billion. To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.